Thanks for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. You can find us wherever you find podcasts or listen to music. When you have an opportunity, please give us a 5-star review, write a little note, tell us how we're doing. We really appreciate it. It helps us keep this thing going. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us at Facebook at Hidden Tracks. Instagram is at HiddenTracks99, and if you'd like to send in submissions or talk to us or give us any feedback about what we're doing, our email is myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show.
Baptized by fire and gasoline. Learned from song the right and wrong. Only thing that kept me living. The forbidden sting means hell to pay. Repent nothing, 'cause I've been saved by 33 and 45 revolutions. We're living it. We're living it. From the dizzying highs to the crushing. We're living it. We're living it. To go far we go together. To go fast we go alone. Double cross, blacklisted, set in stone. With bunks and skins and broken homes. Basement scenes and silver screens. I've seen the best and worst. The faces and places and 4 to 4. To every corner of the world. A bitter ends, the best of friends who are strange, who fell as strangers. They burned our books. They burned our records. We're living it. We're living it. From the dizzying highs to the crushing lows. We're living it. We're living it. To go far we go together. To go fast we go alone. They call this pandemonium. This is what we're living for. They see a broken kid. I see a broken world. I see a broken
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Today I have Jeff from the awesome band Divided Heaven. I made the cardinal sin for those of you who listen to this show, but in our weekly threes, I had put Divided Heaven, and I labeled it as a power pop thing, and the artist, Jeff himself, reached out and with the power pop question mark behind it, but in the weekly threes, I have to label a band so you have some sort of idea of what you're getting into. And it was my version of power pop. And, you know, I had to maybe eat some crow or not, but I had to explain myself to the gentleman who is on with us right now and called Divided Heaven power pop. So sorry about that, Jeff.
No, don't apologize, man. Own it. Own it.
I do own it because what I wrote to you too was like, for me, power pop is just something sensational with a beautiful vocal. And when it gets heavy, there's that fuzzy guitar sound and it's got great hooks and harmonies and sounds to it. And for me, I grew up on that fucking late 80s, early 90s power pop fucking of like Sloan and the Posies and stuff like that. So that's where I found like myself wanting to go back to when I first heard.
Well, I think my career just peaked, Shane, because I've been wanting to be compared to Sloan for about 12 years now, and this is the first time that it's happened. So yeah, I'll take it, man. I'll take it. What was the song? I don't remember. Was it "We" or was it? Because I remember it was off our recent singles collection, but I can't remember what track.
Yeah, I think the track that really got me was the Filthy 15. Like it was
Okay.
it was like I was like, this absolutely could have came out in 1993 and rocked the radio waves with all the other shit that was going on whatever it was 120 minutes on MTV and shit like that. Like it was so perfect fitting. I was like, yeah, that's where that belongs.
I appreciate you saying that because that's my North Star. Getting ready to release some new music next week, I'm reminded how much I dislike participating in social media and participating in the new ways in which we as artists need to promote. And I wasn't putting out music in the early 90s yet. I'm not that old, but I think back to it. It seems seemingly much more simplistic than how it is now, where there was opportunity on music television and there was opportunity on radio. And if you landed on that, then you really had a chance. And now within social media, it's all kind of a mess and it's cacophonous and it's just constant competition and it's a different thing. I know some people thrive in that environment. I feel like I don't thrive in that environment. So
I don't do well
yeah.
at all in
So
that
as a
environment.
songwriter and a when we're putting together making an album, like to me, I think about it in a way that I imagined people were thinking about it in the late 80s, early 90s. Maybe I'm bullshitting myself and I'm just giving myself too much, credit and it's just delusions of grandeur and I am actually a product of my 21st century environment, but I'd like to think that I have some of that gusto and certainly appreciation, but fine-tuned specific sort of goals that those bands had. I mean, every record we do, we still do radio campaigns. We still send out to college radio. We still do all of that because I have faith in it. And that's how I discovered so many bands throughout my life. So I want to carry on that tradition. So you're batting 2 for 2, Shane, so far. Sloan and early 90s, 120 minutes. I think we're going to be friends. It's going to be.
Yeah. And there's a big thing. You bring up that social media aspect, and I just went through this. I now for me to spread music, it just wasn't enough for me to have a podcast. I quit doing what I did for so many years, for like 20 years, and said I still need to spread the word of music. How am I going to do that? So I opened a record store and a music venue, so I can be that guy that continues to spread music to anybody that walks through the door, and because I am not good with that social media shit of trying to spread music. And then the whole podcast thing too, like, yes, it has done well to spread music and help artists that I firmly believe in. But at the same time, when it comes like, I just want to hit like, okay, the episode's out. Right. But you can't just do that. You have to be like, hey, here's a new artist here. We're going to promote this all week. We got it. And it's just like, what the fuck, man? Like sometimes I just want to be like, how do I remove this and still let something, go and be a world of its own? But nowadays you just can't. And I struggle as an older gentleman, especially in life and trying to spread the word and not knowing how to be as proficient uh, of a fucking Instagrammer or Facebook or Twitter, TikTok or whatever that is. That's why I, let my wife do it. And at the same time, like for her, it's a full-time job. At some point, she's just like,
Sure.
I have a real job and I'm doing all this social media shit. I'm like, I don't know what else we can fucking do. Like I like to make things bigger and get word out there and promote concerts that we're having at the store. And it's just like, I don't know what else to do. Like I'm screaming from a mountaintop all day long and I don't know what to fucking do. So as an artist who's creating music and you're putting your heart and soul and passion into something to try and get it out there, like how the fuck do you become, something more than just a great songwriter and get the music to the masses? It's got to be at times for you just mind baffling that you're just like, well, I don't know what else to do, man. I just wrote a collection of amazing songs that you firmly believe in, and it's like, how the fuck do I get it any further?
Yes. Sometimes it is maddening. Sometimes it drives me crazy. At some point, maybe around maybe 10 or 12 years ago, I had put out a record called Youngblood in
Hmm.
2014, and that was the second record, the second Divided Heaven record. And it immediately had like momentum in a way that I had only kind of read about. It didn't hit, don't get me wrong. I mean, it did well on college radio and it had some mild success, but it was the first time that like everything kind of clicked into place around the release and the touring and the publicity cycle and the radio campaign and the constant touring and the even more touring. It just everything kind of unfolded as I had hoped, and it turned into a really successful and long album cycle. Excuse me. But at some point around then, I figured out that I'm probably never going to break, meaning I'm never going to be as popular as I imagined as I would be in my wildest dreams as a little kid. But one thing that I can do is I can focus on making decisions that provide me longevity and the ability to continue to do this into my old age. And I mean, I'm telling you, man, like I mean this with all the love in my heart, but if I scroll through the contacts on my cell phones, it's just riddled with people that I've known who did music at some point in their life, maybe just briefly when they were teenagers, and then they left those dreams, by the wayside. And that's okay. Um, I'm specifically thinking of my friend Alex, who's now a successful entertainment lawyer in Los Angeles. So it's not as if people are neglecting music in their lives and then ending up destitute and not doing anything. But to me, being a musician was the avenue that I explored as being a creative person, and anything that I could do to further the ability to provide a space for me creative is the way that I tended to. That was the path that I was following. I just didn't really recognize it until about 10 years ago when I was 31, 32 years old. And so now I look at it differently. I'm not touring really at all anymore, certainly not the way that I was, uh, you know, even 5 years ago. And it's a comforting reminder to know that just do the work, be creative, work on the songs, do the best you can. And when it comes to releasing it and strategizing and all of that sort of chess game, and this the social media bullshit is a part of that too. Don't get hung up on the little things. Just remember, like, I started making music before Facebook was a thing, and then when Facebook goes away, I'm still going to be making music, and it's the same with any other social media platform or any other algorithm or any other thing that we as artists are supposed to do to trigger authentic likes and posts and all of that stuff. That's all going to come and go, and I'd rather look back at a collection of songs that I'm proud of and a career of experiences that I'm proud of. And even now, I mean, if it were to end tomorrow, I've achieved that. So the ability to shift my focus to thinking about it, to thinking about um, achieving longevity, has allowed me to attain success in a manner that is satisfying to me, even if it's not what I envisioned when I was a young kid.
It's a great way to look at it. And I mean, I it's a simple thing what you said, but you created music before Facebook was a thing, and you'll be creating it after it's gone. And that's
It's the same for you. Like if social media wasn't a thing, would you still have a podcast and still have a record store and still be involved in music and loving music the same
yes,
way? It might
yeah,
look a little bit different, but I'd say for the most part, you would be doing the exact same thing. So there's benefit and value to that, and that's something that I see in young people that doesn't necessarily always register. There's a lot of younger artists that seem to get hung up on the metrics of Spotify or the metrics of social media and not hitting those marks. And it's like, well, all of that stuff is important. I'm not denying it, but it doesn't make your songs any better.
no, it doesn't.
It doesn't. Yeah.
At all. And I've had conversations with those younger people coming up and putting, stressing themselves out about how many, downloads their song got. I'm like, I go, is that why you wrote the song? Like, step back and think about it. If that's why you wrote the song was for the downloads, then music might not be your thing. Because if you're not creating the song for the love of the song and you're creating it for downloads, then you're just doing it for something completely different than what is actually creating great music from your heart and soul, because that's really what artistry is taking your love of something and sharing it with the world. And whether it's you're a painter, a photographer, or a musician, it's taking your love and sharing it
Sure.
in whatever way that you can. But if you're just concentrating on, writing a song and then seeing where it's going to fall in on an algorithm, you're not doing it, you know, for the reasons why a majority of people make music, right?
Well, I think
And
there's
that's my
a balance.
opinion.
Yeah, there's a balance too, Shane. I mean, I know you can't see me, but I'm doing a masturbating motion because there is the risk of being like, well, I'm an artiste, and yes, only 3 people downloaded my song, but it's truly the song of a generation. Like there are
Yeah.
assholes out there that think that, and it's really easy when you don't have success or something. Quite frankly, something flops, and you think like, well, it's still actually a very a prolific song and a tremendous hook. It's really easy to convince yourself of that bullshit. Sometimes, even the best artists put out turds from time to time, and
Well, yeah.
that's okay. So yeah, I think too that would be the B side to my A side of the point about longevity. The B side is like, be humble and realistic too. And I think I've had to eat enough shit sandwiches and enough slices of humble pie to keep it PG-13 that have forced me to reevaluate how I can achieve longevity in a manner that is financially viable, that is emotionally viable, that is psychologically rewarding and not, psychologically destructing.
Yeah.
Or
I mean, you just
devastating.
said
Yeah,
the three most important things.
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. And to that effect, I've been my hard work has paid off, but I've been lucky. I've worked hard at times. I've been lucky at times, and yeah, it's a balancing act. Sometimes, it's easy to think that you're greater than you are. But yeah,
So you said earlier, as a child, you may not be where you thought you would be with music in your life and be that big, quote unquote, maybe rock star or whatever. Um, so being a child, when did music kind of take a hold of you? Like, do you have a kind of that memory of the first time you heard something as a child that just kind of piqued your interest and made you want to learn more about music?
absolutely. Madonna, Material Girl. I have an older sister, Sarah. She's 4 years older than me. She was listening to that record, the Like a Virgin record, which if I was 2 at the time, she was 6 at the time. That's not a record you would probably.
No.
Well, now I have kids of my own, and it's like, who gives a shit? It doesn't fucking matter. So I'm sure my parents were like, it doesn't matter. But yeah, there's something about the tonality of Material Girl, um, like the chimes, the synthesizers, the drum beat, um, the where the material, like the call and response.
Yeah.
I was always drawn to that song. So my first memory of music is hearing that song. But that was very much Sarah's thing. That was my sister's thing. The first time I fell in love with music that I felt like I discovered was just seeing a infomercial for a Beatles anthology on TV. I think it was Nick at Night, and I think it was during the Monkees television show. So
Still one of my favorite shows. I watch it
yeah,
on Access TV still when it's on.
yeah. So it was the Beatles and the Monkees and the Beach Boys were my first love. But the first time I saw myself in music and as a musician, and the first time I thought about, you know, really what was attracting me naturally to music was the 80s glam hair metal stuff. That outrageous quality to it just kind of, took my imagination to the limit as a little kid. So even at, God, 5 or 6 years old, I mean, I was just worshiping Axl Rose, and I knew Appetite for Destruction from, front to back. Even the song Rocket Queen, which has, the orgasming woman at the end of
Yeah,
the
and
bridge. Like,
dude, so that's
yeah,
funny. That's my favorite song that by far that Guns N' Roses ever made is Rocket Queen. And everyone's like, "How is that?" I'm like, "Listen, they almost left it off the album." I'm like, and that's my like
it's a
that
great song.
song.
Yeah,
It's just give me that. Like I'm good with Guns N' Roses with that song. I'm like the fucking song's amazing. Like
yeah. Yeah. So the Roses, the Crew, um, Poison, had a special place in my heart. Def Leppard, because those bands, like I feel like with Madonna, it was just my attraction to pop music.
Yeah,
With Beatles and the Monkees and the Beach Boys, it was an attraction to the lusciousness of the harmonies. Like
absolutely.
I was a sucker for that. But with the hair bands, it was the wild bravado. I mean, like it just I didn't have any life experience, so I didn't know what they were singing about. When Axel's singing about like, you know, your daddy works in porno. Like I don't know. I didn't know what that was, but there was a dangerous quality
Exactly.
to it that really attracted me, and that's still like held firm to this day is those bands. So that's first, in
Yeah,
a
no, that's
elongated nutshell. Yeah.
yeah, no, that's unique. So I want to get your feel on this because I had a conversation about this with someone once, and how everyone said that Nirvana, like the general consensus is Nirvana killed hair metal, right, and glam metal. To me, I said Guns N' Roses actually killed. I said Guns N' Roses came along, and when they came along, everybody had to shift. I mean, and you went from the shift to the different sounds of other bands. Like then Skid Row puts out "Slave to the Grind," which is a metal album. Like it's not
I
that.
fucking love that record.
It's
I
it's an
fucking
amazing metal
love
record.
that record. Yes. Whew, what a great record. But that's an interesting take. I'm not sure that I agree with you, but I also don't necessarily agree with the common adage that hair metal did itself in because it watered itself down. I think a lot of the later hair metal bands get a bad rap.
I think they do too. I just saw
Yeah.
Slaughter last week, like because they were one of my. I was like, Slaughter was so good, and no one really paid attention to them. And Mark Slaughter still fucking got pipes on him. It was awesome.
Yeah, I bet. I bet that's awesome. Yeah, I loved The Wildlife. I love that record. I get emotional thinking about Warrant because like uh, Cherry Pie as a song is a really funny, kind of quirky song. But that record is like pretty dark and has some other like really amazing. It's a great record, even without. I think it's made better by the Cherry Pie song. But like as a whole, that was an important record to me as a young kid, you know. And I really loved how Janie Lane sang and how he wrote songs, and especially his love songs. I thought were kind of the best of that era. And like when he died, I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and me and my bandmates, like we were just kind of trying to get things moving, but like we were like a mile down the road in a garage, and like Janie Lane is like drinking himself to death in a fucking motel room. And like there's certainly, I think, a timeline in which I wouldn't even have made it to California or dreamed I ever would have gone to California to pursue music if I wasn't influenced by somebody, like Janie Lane, who I never met, never knew anybody that knew him personally or anything like that. But I think there's value in that later '80s stuff that doesn't really get the credit, and it often gets uh shit on unwarranted. But if what are you getting at with the Guns N' Roses killed hair metal? Is that they were just so much better than everybody else that
I,
they
I think it was because they put out an album that was so perfect and so it towed the line of what was popular and what was to come, that I think that they were like the brokers of the new generation of music that was to come. And that was my, it's not even an argument. It's my opinion that when that came along, because I always go along the lines when I talk about perfect albums, I go, it goes Appetite for Destruction. And then we go start talking about other albums because like it's a perfect album front to back. Nothing can stop it. Nothing you would ever want to skip or take off. And I think they did something so perfect and so much better than everybody else, that everybody else was just left in the dust.
yeah,
So it now brought up a new generation of people. We have to create something completely new and different because someone just hit the grand slams of all grand slams on an album
sure,
of,
yeah,
of that
I
type
buy
of
that.
music.
I buy that.
Okay, so you grow up and you find your way through glam metal, or hair metal, or glam bands, or whatever the fuck we want to call it nowadays. Just good music that had fucking great licks and was always a party and fun time, right?
It's like that Bill Burr bit. They dressed like women and they sang about the devil, and that was music. But yes, I made my way through that and wrote it till the very end.
So, was that the moment when you kind of decided that you wanted to learn to play music, or were you already doing that prior to that? Was that like what led you into, hey, I want to do something like this?
Entirely. That is the reason I bought a guitar, or my mom and grandfather bought me a guitar. It was the reason why I took guitar lessons. It was entirely responsible for me getting into music on the musician side.
How long uh, did you take guitar lessons for?
A year and a half, 2 years off and on, but it was, I was also doing baseball and probably soccer and other things and trying to have a social life. I don't remember a whole lot about the lessons. I don't remember learning a whole lot because I didn't put much of my effort into it. I just wanted to be good right away, and I didn't have the discipline for scales or notation or really learning tablature.
Hmm.
And so it didn't go anywhere, and I gave it up uh, pretty quickly. I came back to it later on my own, thankfully, but yeah, the lesson route just was not for me.
Yeah, no, and that's why I asked that question. I have friends who teach guitar and do lessons and stuff, and my big thing has always been, especially as a young kid, when first lessons I had to take were piano lessons, kind of like forced on me. Which again, like 90 million other people that started with piano lessons, and everybody wishes they stayed with it. But my big thing always about lessons, and especially when you're trying to teach children something, like you said, you wanted to learn to play right away. And I say, well, one of the biggest mistakes I think guitar teachers make is like starting with the classical route of trying to teach theory and musical notations, and hey, show the kid how to play a fucking power chord the first time he's there and he knows how to create music, and he's like, wow, this is cool. He comes back, you teach him something else, but like you got to start a different way, especially with kids, because you really want to start out and like just play right away and be a rock star. And that's not how it works, but there are ways around it. And that was, I'm not a music teacher by any means, but I'm like, I think that's really where kids just get lost. And yes, the great ones stick with it, who, for some reason they're fucking crazy kids who like a challenge at a young age. But for most of the people that want to do it, is they want to create something, and they want to create it right away.
I can't speak for anybody else. I just didn't have the discipline. And then when I came back to it on my own terms, I was able to, my hand was big enough to then form a bar chord so I could
Yeah.
figure out, Smells Like Teen Spirit or When I Come Around, and I could just understand where things were placed on the neck of the guitar. And it was more representative of what I eventually wanted to do. Being a kid in the 80s and wanting to immediately be as good as Mick Mars or Slash, I mean, that's crazy. But being a kid in the early 90s and wanting to be playing the same chords as a Cobain or a Billy Joe Armstrong, that was attainable. So there was an attainability to punk rock that attracted me because it was just easier, quite frankly. I came around to realizing that I think the songwriting is better for the most part, and it's more aligned with my personal taste, but that kind of came later. But just as a player of the instrument itself, in the most neutral sense, it's hard to say if I would have had the same reaction if I had a guitar teacher in the 80s that was just teaching me open chords and took more of a folk route in teaching as opposed to notation and tablature and the way in which lessons are quote unquote typically done. I probably would have had the same reaction. I think it was just a timing thing. So I don't know. I tend to think for myself and in general with young people, if you're passionate about something and you really want to do it, it's okay if the timing just isn't right. When you're young, 2 years seems like a fucking eternity. But
Yeah.
now that I'm older, I think, all right, I wasn't really into doing it at 8, but by 11, it was all I wanted to do. So the alignment was just off by a few years, and maybe lessons would have had a more positive effect if the timing of when I took them was just different. So I'm not sure it was the curriculum or the teacher or the style of teaching, but just timing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big word that came out of all that is the attainable, which is attainability to being able to do something, and that's where, you know, what I've always said about that grunge era was it made it seem attainable to someone in their teens that, wow, I can do this too. And I always tell people, yeah, there was some great music that came out. And I said, but I think the biggest thing that came out about that era of music that was becoming popular was it made people realize that, and you know, not everyone you know, started creating great music, but it made it so that, like, hey, I can do this too. If they can do this, I may not be able to do it
Yeah.
like them or as good as them, but it made it kind of seem like I could. Because when I grew up in the 80s, there was no way that I ever thought I could play guitar like Slash or McMars, or that wasn't that wasn't attainable for me. But when that grunge movement, alternative, whatever the fuck you want to call it, when that got big, it made my eyes and my life change, because I was like, wow, maybe I can do this too.
I'd say the attainability changed my life too, but the songs didn't, because I just don't think the songs were very good, and I still don't.
I still don't. I don't either. And that's, you know, people, when people tell me how life changing, you know, Nirvana was to them, I'm like, yes, I agree they were probably life changing. And you sit here and you tell me they're your favorite band, and then I say, when's the last time you listened to Nirvana? And then you have to sit there and think, and then tell me it was probably 10 years ago. So I'm like, they're not that important to you. They're important in some ways, but musically, not that important. And they're not your favorite band. So tell me a different name.
Yeah, my issue with the stuff from that era, and this is a broad generalization, so I hope that there's listeners out there that are tightly gripping their steering wheels and or punching their dashboards and screaming at me, because they can poke holes in this argument all day long, and that's fine. My opinion and instinct about that era of music is that the songs really weren't about anything. The songs were good. They were produced wonderfully. Like they're huge. They sound great still. Um, but I don't think that most of the songs were actually about anything. That's my gripe with Nirvana. When I go back to it, I I think the songs are good, the hooks are good, the melodies are good, the little bit of harmonization that's in there is really good. The ferocity is undeniable and good, but like I don't think he knew what he was singing about. I don't get this Cobain as a poet laureate type.
I
I
agree.
think I think it's just kind of random stuff that goes together. That's fine. Whereas I've I thought the same thing for a long time about Billy Corgan, and I've come to realize how wrong I was. I think that his songs are quite poetic and very intelligent and very, especially the earlier records were very dark. Now they're darker because that's like the tonality of the band. But um, to go from a song like Cherub Rock or Today to a song like Disarm, like A Siamese Dream is a very, very dynamic record that I didn't have the nuance and the musical wherewithal to fully comprehend when I was 9 or whenever and when I discovered it. But now at 42, I have a whole new respect for it. But as a whole, or not as a whole, generally speaking, the grunge era bands don't last for me because I don't think that they were really singing about a whole lot. I mean, I feel the same way about a lot of the, not a lot, but certain punk bands that I loved for a long time. Like I think of AFI. I love that band. I still listen to that band very regularly because they are able to write catchy melodies, and they have a unique darkness about them that I'm attracted to. I think that's a theme that's coming up. I'm realizing I keep using the D word. But I'm attracted to the darkness of the band. But at a certain point, like I don't think his lyrics are necessarily very good. I think a lot of them are kind of cheesy and stupid and like spooky for spooky sake. But it's successful, and I'm not going to tell I'm not going to tell Davey Havoc to his face that I don't think he's singing about nothing. But I think there's a chance that he's singing about nothing. I've certainly written songs that aren't about anything, but the hooks work and the lyrics work. And then I've been able to contort it retroactively to say, oh, it was about this grieving period when so-and-so's mom died, blah, blah, blah. And I'm able to sell it and make it seem like it has gravitas when there is none. So I know the game. I know the hustle. And I hope that sometimes people, listen to some of my songs and they're like, oh, uh, you know, the return. From the first Divided Heaven record. Yeah, that isn't about anything, and they'd be right. It's like about nothing. It's really about nothing. And retroactively, I can say, well, actually, it's about the the study and the development of
Yeah.
atheism in modern culture, and blah blah blah. I can like wax poetic and be self.
Yeah, you come up with the meaning long after the song's already gone.
Yeah, it's easy, but anyway, that's my gripe with that grunge era.
So you're 11 and you get back into guitar, right?
Yeah.
Were you, once you started getting back into it, was your next step to go find like-minded people and other people that were playing to play together? Or was this something you kept to yourself for a little bit before you wanted to run out and start a band with the kid down the street?
Well, I mean, Green Day made it easy because Green Day brought a sound that people liked that was underground into the mainstream. So therefore, finding like-minded people, if Green Day was a common denominator, all of a sudden there were common denominators everywhere. And I was in a small town that my after-school social life revolved around bike riding and skateboarding. And then music was secondary to that. That was something I did, at home after I was done, tearing it up or trying to on a skateboard. So at some point there was a shift where like, so and so bought a bass and so got some drums and so was doing this and so was playing guitar and we had really limited options, but it wasn't so much out of like I think necessity that we did it. It was just it was small town USA. It was the older kids were getting into drugs. The younger kids were lame because we were not young anymore, but we were old enough to have enough autonomy to want to be creative and making music together. And one of the things about punk rock is that it's not easy to play well, but it's easy to play.
Yeah.
And so, singing, I remember the first band practice I ever had with a band where it was like all four of us and we were working on some of our own songs. They might as well have all been exploited covers because they all sounded like Let's Start a War Said Maggie one day. It was just the chords were a little bit different. But
what was the name of that band?
The first band was called The Cursed, which evolved into the Statics. And the Statics, but here's the evolution though. The Cursed started to play around my area. And slowly but surely, my other band members would flake or they wouldn't be able to keep up. And so the little bit of momentum that the Cursed had in our area was enough to attract the attention of other scene kids. So by the time the Cursed became the Statics, I was the only original member, but it really was a new band because I was kind of like the most driven kid from my town. And then the bass player was the most driven kid from the next town. And the drummer was the most driven kid from the other town. And our new singer was the most driven kid from his town. And so it was all, it's the same thing in New Jersey as it is in Pennsylvania. It's just these small town one after another. And then maybe you hit a city like Reading or Harrisburg or Lancaster where there's 60,000 people, a big whopping metropolis of 60,000 people. But it's different when you're in a town of 4,000 or 5,000 people like I was. Yeah, there's a lot of kids that like Green Day, but there aren't a lot that are maybe on the same musical page in terms of creating music together. And I found that and I mean this in a totally docile, non-dickish way. I just kind of outgrew the towny mentality of being in a band very young. And I realized that, I'm going to able to do this with more driven, like-minded people who are from other towns, even if they're only 10 minutes away. But, when you're a kid and you don't drive, it's like they might as well be from Jupiter or something. Yeah. And so that's the Cursed evolved into the Statics. But at the end of the 90s, the Statics we were doing well, like regionally, and I was, 17, like getting on a plane and going to California to play shows. I mean, that was like a big deal for me back then. I think about it now and I like, Jesus Christ, like, I can't believe I was allowed to do that. and I also can't believe that there were people in California that gave enough of a shit about us to invite us to play shows in the Bay Area and in California. So that's much of the evolution in a very summarized fashion for you.
Now, do you remember the first time that like you played live in front of strangers? That like, do you remember that feeling or remember where it was? You know, that something that wasn't a talent show, but like in front of strangers where parents aren't there and you're just playing with people and being like, how is this going to go?
Yeah, I mean, my parents were awesome, still are. So I think they were at my first show, but it was a show. It wasn't a school sponsored thing. It was in a old school gymnasium that was no longer an active school. It was in Marietta, Pennsylvania. And I remember there was a stage, but we set up on the floor, but we set our drummer up on the stage to kind of be on this epic drum riser. And I remember we went into the first song, which I think it was called Too Bad for Chaos, which
Sounds
I don't
like a
even know what that,
teenage song.
yeah, I don't know what that means. But like he went in to hit the snare and the cymbal on the first accent and I couldn't hear it. And I wigged out and I was like, no, man, you got to come down on the floor. So I like stopped the show 10 seconds in and then we brought the drums down on the floor and then we stopped. And I remember, uh, there were 30 people there. They watched us, they applauded, they were strangers. The most memorable person in that crowd was my friend Tim, who's still a friend of mine, but Tim went on to become the singer of the next band of the Statics. So like it was just I feel like that's been a reoccurring theme in my music career is that even when I've just been playing like smaller shows or had like intimate opportunities, it's usually led to some pretty crucial key people in the trajectory of my music career. Um, and even at that first show, which I think was Matt, Charlie, Sarah, and myself, um, you know, a year later, it was I was in a totally different band outfit, and Tim was the singer, but the spark of that was from that first show.
Nothing like a spark to get that fire going in you.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Tim and I are still friends, and he's not doing much musically, but he still has a great musical mind, and he's somebody that I have leaned on for like creative input and advice throughout my career. He's kind of like a big brother figure in a lot of ways. And another time that happened was I had moved from New York City to Los Angeles, and I wasn't doing music at the time. I was in a good place in my life, but I was just kind of in a musical rut and I wasn't really writing and I wasn't interested in performing. And I certainly, I don't know, I just didn't want to do anything. Everything was ugh to me at that point. But I loved living in Los Angeles and that was really new and exciting. And I ended up booking a show for a friend's band and building the lineup. And this was at the old Knitting Factory in Hollywood. And the band that I booked the show for broke down and practically broke up on tour somewhere in the Midwest. And then the other bands dropped off, but I was like, I still have this date. I could put together this show and kind of rebuild it and like, dust off my solo stuff and maybe, we'll see what happens. And I played the show and there was this one guy in the crowd who came up to me afterwards. It's like, yeah, dude, that was super rad, dude. I do something similar to you, dude. Like a very California type of guy. And that was my friend Bradley. And he said, yeah, I got a studio, man. I want to do a record with you. And I'm thinking, this guy is like a Hollywood douchebag. It's all bravado. Nothing's going to come of this. And wouldn't you know it, he was telling the truth. He lived and worked at a studio on the other side of Hollywood at Hollywood and Vine. And we made, a few months later, we were making a record together. And he's another just incredibly instrumental person, he's a creative force and way more artistic than I could dream to be. But we've always had a healthy competition with our mutual songwriting and the mutual respect surrounding our songwriting. But I often think back to meeting him seeing something in me and being really enthusiastic at a time when I was just mellow, malaise about everything. And it made all the difference. I mean, that led me to making that first record. That's where I met the woman that became my wife. And without his push, I don't think I ever would have got out of I'll play once in a while in Hollywood and see what the fuck happens mentality. He's the one that really saw something in me and pushed me to write better songs, and let's workshop this song again. Let's do this part again. Let's rewrite this part. I think you could write this song a little bit better. And I mean, phew, yeah, you need people like that, man.
I,
You need those motivators, you know?
absolutely, man. I mean, you know, for you to have that, like, I tell bands and artists and young artists to, no matter what, when you're playing, doesn't matter if three people are in the crowd, play your heart out, because you don't know who those people are in the crowd. And that one person could give you the motivation or the next step to move on to something, because it's the people that push people when they see something in someone, that I think are like unsung heroes. You know, as long as, you know, I go on doing this show, I'll always give credit to that friend who pushed me to do this show. It
Yeah.
was like, dude, you've been talking about doing this show for 3 fucking years. He goes, no one knows music that I've ever met in my life like you know music. I've been playing music around the world for a long time. You gotta fucking do this show. And he tricked me into recording the first episode. And it was one of those things that, like, yeah, you just, that little push, and like, fuck, here I am 5 years later. Here I am. This show led into me quitting my job, and after 20 years, and following my dream and opening a record store and a small music venue, and wanting to bring music to the masses, and have a place for artists to feel comfortable and be lifted up anytime they walk in the door. Like, if it wasn't for that little push, I wouldn't be right here,
Yeah,
like,
man.
all
It's the
these
little
years
things.
later.
It's the little things. Yeah, you might not make it to the stage at Madison Square Garden, but you might just meet people, at pivotal moments in your life that offer that bit of inspiration that you really need.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I mean, and I love, like, that you had that you were feeling, not so much wanting to have this musical part in your life for a while, and that was that moment that it brought it back. And I have to say thank you to him, because without him, I wouldn't be talking to you right now, right? So, like, I wouldn't be this guy who reached out to you randomly to be like, dude, I fucking love your music, and called it power pop, and then now here we are. But
Well, in case Bradley ends up listening, let's not give him too much credit. I don't want to go into his head.
no, but I mean, it really is like, there's so many fucking little snowball effects that happen throughout the way, just from that one little spark, and that spark gets the fire lit, and here you are with all these songs later, right? It's just, it's an amazing thing that can happen for someone when you're not so sure about yourself anymore. And here you are with, all these records of Divided Heaven, and all these songs, and all these people you've met along the way. And I talked to someone who knew you, and I fucking said, dude, I'm listening to this fucking record, and all of a sudden I hear this voice that's very familiar to me, and then I fucking look at him like, sure as shit, it was you. And that was Jared Hart. And he goes,
Oh,
dude,
cool.
and he's like, yeah, man, I have to give it to fucking Jeff. He goes, he's the one that fucking talked me into just fucking grabbing an acoustic guitar and doing songs. I was like, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, Jared's like really not shy about giving me credit for that publicly. I don't remember doing that. I take credit for it, but I can't pinpoint exactly when I was like, yeah, you have a car, right?
Yeah.
Let's do this. But yeah, and I'm really proud of him and the success that he's had. But something I wanted to mention, that's a story that I enjoy sharing, is you can, as an artist, you can turn shortcomings, like negatives, into positives in most cases. And you can turn poor experiences or bad experiences into, learning experiences. And the example that I cite the most is that I got a bad record review for my first record, Arrival City.
Mm-hmm.
And that record came out in 2011. I want to say the review was the very beginning of 2012. And I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and I was working at a museum, and I had a couple of interns. So the review was in German. It was in a German online zine. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I translated it in Google Translate. And Google Translate now is like really good. But like 2012, it was kind of not really very good, not as good as it is now, for sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had these Austrian interns, Stefan and Marcus, and I printed it out and I was like, could you read this and like tell me? And Marcus read it and he had this big smile on his face and he goes, it's not good. It's just and I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. But he kind of explained what the reviewer had said at a certain points, and some of it was like German idioms that wouldn't have translated to English necessarily anyway. And that first record has a little bit of a, I mean, it's a solo acoustic record. It's
Yeah. One of my favorite songs by you is off of that.
So, what's that?
Keystone.
Oh, okay. That's a heavy one. But thank you. That's great. So I could tell that the reviewer had like listened to the record and just didn't like it. And I thought, all right, much respect. I emailed the fucking dude and I said, I'm sorry it wasn't to your liking, but I appreciate you listening. And I'm certainly not mad at the bad review. I really do appreciate the time, because I think that you put things in the review that, even though it was mostly negative, I feel like there were things in there that people could have picked up on and said, oh, I'll still give it a shot.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was just like, oh, well, I saw a photo of Jeff on Facebook and he was wearing a Last Resort t-shirt and I hate the Last Resort, so fuck this. It was like, it had context.
Yeah.
And he turned out to be really, really nice. And at about our third or fourth email exchange, I said, can you put me in touch with any booking agents that that are hungry for new American artists? And he said, just so have it, my good friend Glenn, blah, blah, blah. And so, 4 months later, I'm touring Europe for 45 days straight as direct support for the Snips, a great Canadian band who grew up on Sloan and introduced me to Sloan. And that really changed the trajectory of the next, really like the next decade of my life, or at least up until COVID hit and I was just touring constantly. So that all stemmed from a bad review. It was a bad review by somebody who was nice enough to respond to my email, but I didn't look at it like, oh, fuck, I got a bad review, I need to quit now. Or, oh, fuck, this guy in Hanover, Germany, they gave me a bad review. No, it was an opportunity. I saw it as an opportunity to create a contact and to extend the proverbial web, if you will.
Well, your mind does not work like most others then.
But I'm weird. Like I talk about, I know I talk about this with my wife all the time. I'm not going out and asking out women anymore because I'm happily married. But when I was single and I would ask women out to their face and they would politely reject me, I kind of enjoyed it. I'm not like a glutton for punishment or anything, but I enjoyed the authenticity of them being like, no, sorry, or no, I have a boyfriend, or, no. As long as it wasn't like, ew, gross, like getaway Jew or anything terrible like that, I was cool with it. You know what I mean? And I think some of that is lost in the super information age where everything is through an app or through a social media platform and everything is so like formal, but impersonal. Yeah. And I enjoy like actually making the connections with people that matter, because like I've said in just these examples that I've spouted on about now for too long, like those three little examples, like, they changed a lot and it was for the better. And it's not because I was like, oh, I'm brilliant at this, I can turn anything into a positive. No, it was just I saw a little bit of an opportunity, or somebody saw a little bit of an opportunity to promote something positive within me, and therefore I was able to be in a position to accept it and take it and move it forward, and then and pay it forward. Like I said, I don't remember telling Jared Hart to pick up the acoustic guitar, so if anybody out there doesn't like Jared's solo music, then you can blame me, but it's I appreciate that he gives me credit for it, but it's just an extension of what other people did for me, and I'm sure he's encouraged probably dozens if not hundreds of people to do what they're doing musically now as well.
Yeah, no, and he's such a genuine good person too.
Yeah, let's not get too positive about Jared Hart.
Yeah,
he's all right. He's all right.
No, he's a good guy, and he has supported me in my endeavors doing this too. So I gotta throw some love to him too. So
Nah, he's okay.
Yeah,
He's okay.
he's
Jared
Jeff.
Hart is an okay guy.
So I mentioned that off of Rival City, I loved the song Keystone. So I loved, this is now your pick your favorite child segment of the show, where if you could only play one song of Divided Heaven that is currently released as we speak right now, what song of yours would you play for someone just meeting a stranger and they say, "Hey, play me something of yours"?
Am I in a red state or a blue state in this hypothetical scenario? I'll put it this way. The best song that I've released, in my personal opinion, is the song "They Poisoned Our Fathers," and
I
that's
love
on
that song. Yeah.
Oblivion. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Your father fucked a ghost last night, and her name is Fear. She walked him in the voting booth, whispering in his ear, 'cause he hates his mother and he hates yours too. Afraid of them, afraid of you. There ain't enough love to change his mind. There ain't enough love. There ain't enough to change your mind. There ain't enough love to change your mind. Have I failed you like the way you failed me? There ain't enough love. There's more money to be made from my death than my life. So what's another shooting spree? I'll sell more guns than allies and kill me for a minimum wage. Did I become all you dreamed I would be? Is there another love to change your mind? If I can't come back this time. There ain't enough love. There ain't enough to change your mind. There ain't enough love to change your mind. On a flag, they got hold your bloody rag. You're for your creator, for your protector. They're gonna find a way to legislate and dominate casualty rate. There ain't enough love. There ain't enough to change your mind. There ain't enough love to change your mind. There ain't enough love to change your weak and poison life. There ain't enough love to change your mind.
But that is a dark song about rape and abortion and MAGA and menstruation and cum. And I really went like visceral and vulgar on it because that's how I was interpreting the way in which so many of our fathers and just men from that general boomer generation really openly embraced Trumpism in a way that I found sickening. So I think in terms of it being a song that has efficacy, uh, and just like efficacy in terms of the lyrics, and then musically it has like a really good hook, I would say that. But that's like a downer song to play, and I've seen people leave the room when I play that song because they found it so offensive. So I would say, if I'm in a red state and I need to ruffle some feathers and clutch some pearls, make people clutch some pearls, then I would say They Poisoned Our Fathers. But if I'm in a more lighthearted and optimistic mood, it would probably be The Daughters and the Sons, which is off of the record Cold War that we did in 2018.
Nice. Yeah, I made a for a friend. Whenever I start talking to people about music that I'm listening to, like as I was with yours, it's a great place for me to do it at the store, and I just start playing music and talking about music, and then someone hears a song like, who is this? And I'm like, hey, listen, I'll make you a quick like EP of it, because I'm one of those people, like, for a lot of people, anyone can write one good song. It's the second and the third and the fourth that are the hardest. So I'm like, let me just put together a little quick EP, like 6 or 7 songs for you from this artist. And what I try to do is, if you got a bunch of albums out like you did, I just, here you go. This is, and then I shoot it off to them. Here, listen to this. If you can't get into any of this, then you're not going to like the rest. But this is where I always like have that foundation of an artist. And I mean, I started with, of course you have to start anything because I love the way you started out the album, but I started with Fire, and then I go to Keystone. Then I did Scott Number One, and then Every Drop, then Kate is War, then The Getaway, then Reckoning, and then I end with the Filthy 15. But like I that's what I sent to somebody, and I get a text message back like 20 minutes later, fucking A, and I'm like, good fucking A or bad fucking A?
Like, fucking A, this little Jew is all over the place and he can't settle on one genre. Yeah.
And they were just like, no, fucking A, like, I'm going to listen to every fucking album. Like, that's why I do it. I'm like, that's
Dude,
like,
Shane,
that's
thank
it.
you for that. But that's a weird fucking list. You have some songs that it's full transparency, I would classify as like mediocre at best. So that's really interesting. I'm very surprised by that, and it just goes to show, like, I always,
well, your opinion on your own songs don't fucking matter, because they don't belong to you anymore. They belong to me because they're out there. So I mean,
and I hate it when artists do that. I find that a lot of artists, when they, and the most recent example that comes to mind is the Killers did a record called Wonderful Wonderful. I think it was 2017. I love that record. I loved that record when it came out. When Imploding the Mirage came out in 2020, a lot of the press they mentioned, oh, well, the last record we did didn't really like satisfy what we were trying to do, and it was kind of a whiff, and I'm like, oh man, you just ruined it. Like, just pretend you're stoked on it, even if you're not really.
Yeah.
It's okay to like your new record more. I think that's a good, healthy sign as a creative person and as an artist that puts out new material, especially if you have the ability to be a legacy band like they do. So I'm not going to shit on any of the songs within the list, but there are a number of surprising songs on there. But to bring it full circle, I think the power pop comment that kind of piqued my interest and piqued my curiosity, because I found it a little bit mysterious. I see where you're getting it. Like, I see how you're extracting that tonality from songs in my discography that makes sense in that realm. But one of the songs you mentioned, Reckoning, is way different. I mean, that's like a funeral dirge on piano, like, about, like,
because
some heavy shit.
Yeah. So the reason why I do is because, and for me, I always try to extrapolate like certain things and put them together in a way that, like, this is best going to describe everything that the artist is about. And like, that's where the Reckoning there is so much. You can go 3 songs in a row and you're kind of in, the same pocket. And then you get to another song on any of your albums, and it's like, where did this come from? And that's kind of what I love about music, is because that makes my, my ears stand up and go, whoa, okay. And that's when I start to be like, okay, there's a lot of depth here. There is more than I could possibly probably ever know about what's going on here in the process and coming up with the songs. And that's where I get very interested. And that's where my love and joy of music, and then sharing it with people, like, dude, check this fucking out. Look at how they do, and look at how diverse it is, whether it's along the same tonality or whatever it may be. There's so much simplistic complexity within something so beautiful that you can pull from it what you will, and everybody can pull from it in their own way and find something different in it. And that's what I just love to do when I find an artist that I'm like deeply connected to and don't know why. And now sitting here talking to you, I can feel the reasons why that I got connected as fast as I did to your music. But it's like, I love that stuff where there's that difference where I can show, hey, here's the complexity of the artist in its whole, and you're going to come across some different songs here, and it's just going to be like, boom, here you go. And then you're like, oh shit, there's a lot to know about this.
Yeah, that's very kind of you to say. I really appreciate it. I think if Divided Heaven has a epitaph, which I think it might, and maybe sooner than later, I think on that epitaph would be simplistic complexity, or however you put it.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a good way of putting it. What I'm about to say is really, really granular discography talk, but I know that you'll get it, and hopefully your listeners will get it. But so we have 5 records, and I'm looking at them on my wall now, and I have them on my wall for a reason, not because I'm that much of a narcissist to hang them in my own home, but because I'm able to look at them as eras of my life and eras of my career, and think about the failures, the successes, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between. Not just the songs themselves, but since I'm in the process of like putting a new record together now, I have been kind of looking at my discography and thinking about things that I did that I liked, and things that I did that I didn't like. And one of the common complaints in certain reviews is that my records tend to be all over the place. I say tomato, you say tomato. I say diverse, they say there's too not enough continuity for it to feel like a good cohesive record. And I can buy that for sure, because within that argument there's still the vacuum of an opportunity for there to be a discussion around, well, the song may not fit on the record, but it can still be a good song. You know what I mean? And so the fact that when you were talking about the list that you had extracted from my discography and put together for your friend, it made me realize that when I look back at my records, I like that they're kind of all over the place. The only one that's really not all over the place, I think, is the first record, because I didn't have as much to pull from then. But it's like every record since then has been more and more kind of all over the place. And I think this next one is probably going to be even more all over the place, which is, it's kind of my brand at this point, as a weird as that might be to say. I think that's a aspect of the Divided Heaven brand, is that the records are diverse, and that's why I prefer records. Some of the songs that you suggested for your list, though, Shane, were from an EP that we did called Pacific Avenue.
Yeah.
And that was a full record. That was supposed to be a full record, but it was too much of the same. Like, it was too linear, and to do 6 songs in that style, like, that kind of made sense. But to do 10 or 11 or 12 or 13 songs in that style really, really felt like overkill, and it felt like a misrepresentation of the band. So it became this weird between record, like stutter step sort of EP, and therefore it kind of resides as like a stepchild or a bastard in the discography, because it's not a standalone single or something, and it's for an EP, it's kind of on the longer side, but it's not a full record. So all that to say, I think it's really interesting that you chose songs off that. It fits your power pop motif, which is much of I'm teasing about. Like, it does make sense to me. Genuinely makes sense to me, but it's also not part of the discography that I think about. But when I think about taking those songs and putting them up against some of the weirder songs from some of my other records, there's quite a spectrum there, and that's what I enjoy putting out to my audience. So I hope that that's the lasting impression from me to your wonderful listeners, is that, you know, the next One Divided Heaven record is not going to sound like the next, and that's on purpose. Like, there's homogeny, but there's not continuity.
And I usually describe it as, and it's what I love about listening to full albums. Like, I hate the singles game. I'm a full album. Give me it all. I want to hear it because I think I get a better feeling of the artist, and I love the roller coaster that a full album can take me on. And you don't ever hit the same loop in a roller coaster. So if you come to a turn and all of a sudden you're doing a 90-degree angle fucking turn on a song, that's fine. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for the ride. Where are we going next? And that's what I love with things being diverse and not an entire album, sounding like Dookie. The one song bleeds into the next, and you don't know. Yes, you do know when it ends with the song, but you know what I mean? It's not like one full fucking song for 10 songs, and then you're just like, oh, what was different about that? Nothing. It's all the same. That can be great as well, but I love the ride I get taken on with music and full albums and what your stuff does. And when there is a major fucking shift and a 90-degree turn on a song, I'm like, that's what interests me too. It's like, wow, fuck, I wasn't ready for that. And that's what I love. Like, I love when I'm surprised.
Yeah, I am too. I appreciate you saying that. You're going to be lovingly disappointed that there's a new Divided Heaven single, not album, but single, coming out next week. But it's a means to an end. There'll be a new record next year. We can talk about that again at another time. But there is a new single. It's called Living Funeral. Yeah. It drops on the 23rd, and I encourage everybody to listen. And
everyone will listen to it because I'm going to force them to. But listen, I love, I get where we are in the world of getting things out and getting people. My big thing that I haven't liked, and this is, I'll go with my old man stage here, but bands who have like played the singles game and then just put it into like come out with 7 singles and then put out a full album, but there's only 3 other songs on it. But you've just given me a single every month for the past 7 months. And I'm just like, what? We know they were done.
As charged.
We know that the album was done.
Yeah, your guest may or may not have done that on multiple occasions at this point.
That's the kind of stuff where it's like, oh man. And for new music too, that's where I struggle when I start hearing songs that I like, and then I go and then I'm like, okay, they've released 5 singles. I'm not doing this. And sometimes I check out, and that's, maybe bad on me, but it's like, I want to listen to more. Give me more, but I do understand there's a new way of doing things, and there's a new world and new way of placement and things you have to do. And I understand that. And me as an old man, I'm just like, I just want to be able to go to an album and listen to the whole thing.
Old man or not, you're on to something, Shane. I've had conversations with people on my team about this, where the marketplace, regardless of the generation or the demographic, has reached a breaking point when it comes to constantly being inundated with single after single, especially when it's like leading up to a record release. It can turn it just turns plain annoying for people.
My view is people forget about
the sweet spot.
Yeah, my thing is, I think people forget about it, or like they forget about you. Yeah, they get the single and they love it, but I really don't know how often they go back. And I'm sure there's ways to measure it and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know how often they go back to find the second or third or fourth single, right? Like if they're there for you, you get that pop-up that pops up, oh, new single comes out from somebody on your Spotify or whatever. I'm like, yeah, it's great. And I got to be perfectly honest, I don't think I ever click on it anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's a Spotify game, and Spotify has the majority of the market share. So it's weird for people who don't listen to music on Spotify. It doesn't typically work the same way, and the metrics don't work the same way from again, this is like really inside baseball, but just in terms of the like we're creatives and we're songwriters and we're dealing with like data and like ROI and all that stuff, and like we're a business, and at a certain part like we are, but there is a method to the madness, but it's easy to abuse, or it's even easier to overkill and oversaturate and to have an abundance of too much upfront before a record release. I will say though, and this is important, I hope your listeners take this away, the single that we're putting out next week, Living Funeral, we are running back a play that we previously did 4 years ago. In October of 2020, leading up to the election, we released They Poisoned Our Fathers because it was a fierce, vehement, politically scorching song. And it was purposefully put out right before the election. And I'm not saying that Biden defeated Trump because we put out the song, but there's a chance that maybe, we get some credit for that. But, 4 years later, it's somehow things are even fucking crazier. So we're running that playback in so much as we're repeating that task of releasing a music leading up to the election day. Now things are different. In the fall of 2020, nobody was putting out new music because everybody thought COVID was going to be done in a few months. Remember that weird time, right? And so they were like holding and pausing their releases until they knew they could pick up and start touring again. So it really was kind of in the eye of the hurricane, so to speak, in a number of ways. Whereas this time, we're up against, everything else. But it is, Living Funeral will be on the next Divided Heaven record. So it technically is the first peak, and it's into the record, and visually, the visual branding and the new logo and all, it's an introduction into the next chapter of the band and all of that. But it's not going to be followed up by a new single next week or next month, and then the month after that. Like, we learned our lesson on the past 2 records of doing that, and it was exhausting, and it made it not fun. But putting out a political scorcher, a few weeks before the election, I mean, that's our brand. That's what we do. That's what's important to us at this point. That's what's important to me as a songwriter is to sing about the low road, at a time when people want to ignore what's happening politically, or they're afraid of upsetting their neighbors or their conservative parents or whatever. Like we just we go in the opposite direction. We just kind of full throttle into that chaos and try to be as vulgar and catchy as we can. So all that to say is, I'm with you on the overkill on the digital singles, but of course ours is different because I'm the guest at this point with the microphone, and I say it's a different way of doing things, so no one's going to stop me. Yeah.
Well, now I'm very excited for new Divided Heaven stuff. Can't wait to listen to the new song when we're done here. So, a couple more questions because I know you're a father and you got a baby to take care of. So, band that never lets you down. You have something that you constantly turn to when you're looking, to listen to music. Rolling Stone calls it your favorite band. I call a band that never lets you down, that you constantly turn to listen to when you just need something to listen to.
It's a good question. You're gonna have to edit out all these I really need to think.
Yeah.
Like if I'm looking for, I'm not gonna quantify this. The first 4 Motley Crue records never let me down.
Okay.
After that, I get let down occasionally, so I don't really go much beyond that. But Too Fast for Love, Shout at the Devil, Theater of Pain, Girls, Girls, Girls. Those records, that band, that era does not let me down.
Nice.
That's my answer.
I'm very surprised with the Theater of Pain, but I kind of understand it as well.
Era is really intriguing to me. The older I get, that era seems really intriguing to me.
Yeah. Trying to figure out what they were going through at the time creating that.
Well, I think I like that they were willing to, I mean, I don't know. They were fucking drug addicts and millionaires in their 20s. I'm not really going to try to like dig too deep into the psyche. Like they were just trying to look like David Bowie. It's not really a mystery, but there's artwork is really important to me. And I'm not going to say that Motley Crue necessarily had the greatest artwork ever. But all four of those records, they look really different. Like the first record, they kind of look like demonic, but like punk, or sort
Mhm.
of like Elvira. And
Yeah.
then Shout at the Devil was that, but on steroids. Like they were like in Mad Max, but like worshiping Satan. And then Theater of Pain, they were all really, really pretty and really teased out and really glammed. And then Girls, 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 they had 5 o'clock shadows and scruff and less hairspray and more like motorcycle and jean jackets and leather. And, you know, I like that diversity. I like when bands look different on each record. I do not, I really, really, really dislike seeing band photos where everybody looks the same and they're all white dudes who should probably be in better shape, who have beards, who are wearing band t-shirts. Like it's all well and good, but like I'm not attracted to that. Um, and I'm real open about it now. Like I used to be kind of shy about it, but now I'm just like, no, I don't want to listen to another band that sounds like Hot Water Music. I want to listen to Hot Water Music. I don't want to listen to a band that looks like every other band. I want to.
That's always my thing when
Yeah.
new bands come out and they get like, oh my God, this is like how you say, like, oh, this is like new Hot Water Music. Well, I don't need that. I have Hot Water Music. I'm fine with it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
need the
Yeah.
new version of it. I don't need the younger kids doing their version of it. I have the goods. So why do I need
Yeah.
something else just
Yeah.
like it?
Yeah. So I think that's another reason for my Motley Crue answers, because when I listen to that music, especially even if I'm not looking at a screen, if I'm driving and I'm listening to that music, I can think of the different, like to me, those albums sound like the color schemes on the artwork. Like the first record is very much like black and white and red,
Mm-hmm.
and Shout of the Devil is very much black with a shadow and high contrast with red, but also some weird blue and some orange and some like steel color. It has that tonality. Theater of Pain is very much like a weird cream and
Cream and
purple and
lavender and orange and
lavender. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
and peach
Girls,
color.
Girls, Girls is
Yeah.
is really like, like a wet, slimy Santa Monica Boulevard in Hollywood with motorcycles going down it. Like it just has that look, and I like that. I like the visual accompaniment to the records, where I would say Bad Religion is probably my favorite band of all time, but I don't think they have very many records that have interesting artwork. And furthermore, I think in most of their career until the last like
I think Against
10
the
years,
Grain is
they
very
always,
interesting.
is it? I don't know. It's a little too literal. It's a
Eh,
corn that's going in the opposite direction.
yeah.
I don't know. I
Recipe for
guess, I don't
Hate.
know. No, two
Generator.
two people with in two men in suits with dogs photoshopped onto their heads. I don't know, man. I'm not really getting it. I have a poster I'm looking at right now of No Substance, which has a television
Yeah,
and a
with the
phone
girl.
sex commercial on it.
Yeah.
With the girl, yeah, and I think that's great. But then you look at them on the back cover of the record or on the insert, depending on what version you have, and they just look like schlubby dads. And no offense, like I am now myself a schlub. I'm a schlubby dad. That's my look. That's fine. But I mean, if I'm looking at schlubby dads from 1998 and Bad Religion versus fucking Motley Crue Theater of Pain era at 1985, I mean, come on, man. Who are we kidding? Who are we kidding? Motley Crue looks way cooler. It's way more fun to look at. So, yeah.
Dude looks like a lady. What do you have that you listen to that people would be really surprised after our conversation today that you get tons of enjoyment out of? People call them guilty pleasures. As old men, we just call them pleasures, but something someone would be really surprised that after all the music we've talked about today, you get tons of enjoyment out of listening to.
I got nothing for you for a couple of reasons. One, I don't believe in guilty pleasures. Never have.
Well, that's what I said. They're
And
just
two,
pleasures. But
well, yeah,
it's
pleasures.
something that
I know.
someone would be really surprised that. And here's my thing too. Okay, I understand we will stand by our hard line on we like this. We don't care what you think. But I always say sometimes if you're listening to something that you would think someone may judge you for, we're human beings. There'd be that half a second where you'd be like, like someone walked in on me at the store when I was about to close and I was blasting Jamiroquai. And they just looked at me like, what the fuck? I'm like, yeah, fuck you. I love Jamiroquai. But like that was it was that 1 second where I was like, I'm gonna have to explain this real quick. And it was, my retort was fuck you, I love Jamiroquai. But but like no one would picture me, a guy who loves indie music and punk rock and hair metal and emo and metal and rock and roll, to just be blasting Jamiroquai in the store.
Yeah. Okay. I'm following you. I was adding unnecessary semantics to this. The short, easy answer is the Killers. I myself, Jeff Berman, the atheist Jew, who loves punk rock and bands that sing about the devil, blasting privately songs written by Brandon Flowers, who's a devout Mormon. And much of the newer material does have, it's secular, but it does have a religious hint, or hue to it. That would probably be the biggest surprise. That's a band that I love on a deep level. I feel a deep connection to his songwriting, and I'm more in love with the deeper cuts than I am the single. The singles are great too, don't get me wrong, but I'm very much in love with their entire discography. And I think that might surprise people.
I'll allow it.
But I have to say, like, for my day job, I am, part of my job is I need to keep up with just kind of what's happening in the greater world of music. So I listen to a lot of pop. I listen to a lot of jazz. I listen to a lot of weird indie. I listen to a lot of obscure European music, and just a big variety of music. But I truly do like all of it. I don't love all of it, but I certainly like all of it. And so I'll go through phases where I'm listening exclusively to soul, or I'm listening exclusively to pop, or, I definitely went through a Lizzo phase. I've gone through a Coldplay phase. Any number of them, but the most consistent one would be the Killers, I would say.
All right. You got 5 minutes left to live. Meteors crashing into the earth, and you can only listen to one song. What song are you listening to?
All These Things That I Have Done by the Killers.
All right. I see the
and I'm belting it out, and I'm the fat lady singing as we all go into the ether.
Yeah. All right. One more question before we go to our final segment. But is there any piece of like music memorabilia in your life, or something musical that you own or have that is, other than your family, like the first thing you saved from a fire?
You're gonna have to edit this part. I'm looking around my office. No.
Nothing.
The most important piece of music memorabilia in my life is my brain. If I start to lose my memory, then it's gone.
Okay.
If I as long as I have my health, I have all the memorabilia I need.
All right.
Well, yeah. Nothing fun. Sorry.
No, nothing fun. I'll let that go.
But I offer sage elderly mid-40s wisdom, and you're like, I was hoping he was going to choose the Tascam 8-track. No, no. I'm getting the fuck out of my house. Let it burn it all down. I'll be fine. Yeah.
All right. So before we move on to our weekly 3 segment, I'd love to give you the opportunity right now, Jeff, to tell our listeners how to find everything that you're doing, how to keep up with you, all your handles, all your good stuff like that. If you know them, now's a great time for you to throw them out.
Wouldn't that be some shit if I was like, yeah, I've been doing this, I'm all about longevity, but I don't really know how to find me on social media?
I've had a couple people be like, I don't know.
If you're a human being and you can spell the words divided and heaven properly, just type that into any streaming platform or social media platform and you will find me.
Awesome.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
All right. Well, we are in our weekly 3 segment. It's where you premiered and we started to make contact from that. It is 3 things that you're listening to right now that you would like people to check out. You give your 3, then I give my 3.
Okay. Okay. And Okay, I got it.
All right, why don't you give it to us then?
I'm looking up the name of the new record, but there's a great band slash singer songwriter from the UK called Arms and Hearts. They just put out a new record. It's very good, and it's called "The Future Is Not Bright." Um, I mean, he's British, so he has to have like a heavy slant of pessimism, but the songs are fucking great. So my first would be Arms and Hearts.
Nice. 2.
Oh man, um, I'm getting high on a lot of Jason Isbell these days. Am I the only Jason Isbell guy in your orbit?
Nope.
I
I,
hope not. I, I hope not. Yeah,
I actually have his new record showing up to the store either tomorrow or Thursday. So yeah.
like the new live record, or is
Yeah.
it the yeah. So yeah, that's a that's an easy one, Jason Isbell. And then third, I just went to the record store today and bought the new Pinhead Gunpowder record.
Nice.
Yeah, I bought that at Angry Young and Poor in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I've only listened to one side of it so far, and my son was screaming the entire time, but what I heard sounded great, sounded like a classic Pinhead Gunpowder record, so I'm excited for
Yeah.
that.
And for those of you who listening don't know, Billy Joe Armstrong. Band.
Yeah, but he's not the magic in the band.
He's not the magic, but it's
No, the magic in the band is Aaron Comet Bus, who's the drummer. Right? His drumming's okay. It's not great, but he's the lyricist, and his lyrics are gold. Yeah.
All right. Good 3.
Yeah. What about you?
My 3. My first one is singer-songwriter. He goes by the moniker Covey, Covey. He has a new album coming out on October 31st called Middle Ground. It's not out yet, but we talked about the singles games, but the first 2 that he's released, one is called Serotonin. But if you want a full understanding of who he is, you go right to Class of a Cardinal Sin, but Covey, Covey, Class of a Cardinal Sin. It's kind of, here I go. I'll get in trouble again if he reaches out to me. Emo-ish, punkish vibes with singer-songwritery. I'm all in on it. So that's number.
Oh yeah.
Number 2 is another singer-songwriter. His name's James Vincent McMorrow. Wide Open Horses is the name of the album, and I'll just put it, if you like Amos Lee, you're gonna like him. And last but not least, it's because I saw them this weekend at Best Friends Forever Fest, which I just got back from last night, and I just can't stop listening. I forgot how much I love them, and they were, to me.
Can I guess?
Sure.
Is it the Get Up Kids?
No. I've seen them so many times, and honestly, I'm not going to say it.
Don't say it. You can't say it.
It wasn't my favorite show of them. Like it's not. It probably isn't a top 3 of me seeing them.
Oh, okay.
But it was just an amazing experience to see this band. I never got an opportunity to see them when they were around, but Pinback, Summer in Abden, I just been crushing on that record since I saw them on Friday. It was just I can't even tell you, like, when it was over, I was like, fucking A. Like, I was so blown away, and I was like, I can't believe that's the first time I saw them. They blew my expectations out of the water, and now I'm just like, shit, now I'm just going to be listening to Pinback for a while. So
a nice trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
I'll leave Pinback to you. Yeah.
But yeah, those are my 3 for this week. And yeah, it's after a festival, 3 days of music from my youth, bringing me back to my youth. It was a great 3 days, and that was the band that stood out the most for me. Even though Sunny Day fucking killed again. Seeing them, like, they're in the pocket right now. They're in a zone that they're just awesome. So
yeah, who were the other highlights from the weekend?
Mannequin Pussy was a huge highlight. They were like, I was excited to see them, to see how they would do, and they exceeded expectations. A band that I always love seeing live, a band whose music to me doesn't translate recorded. very well. Piebald. Anytime I see them, they are one of my favorite live bands. But you will never catch me putting on a Piebald record. That's just the type of band it is for me. And there was another band who I've had on my threes who I was very excited to see. They opened up Sunday morning. And it's a band I think they're from California. They're called Rocket. It's very like shoegazy female singer. And they were amazing.
Cool.
Those are my highlights.
Cool.
But Jeff, I just got to say, this has been an awesome fucking hour and a half. This is, I've enjoyed talking to you just as much as I enjoyed your music. And, a huge thank you to you for creating the music that brought us together. Without that and without your hard work and your heart and soul being put out there for me to judge, you and I would never be talking, most likely. So, I mean, it means the world
Sitting at home with my own podcast, judging people.
Yeah.
That is the life. Well, I'm glad that I've worked all of my creative life to provide the fodder for you, Shane, to just purely and mercilessly judge on your podcast. It means it really does. I appreciate the kind words, and I appreciate you having a sense of humor with me about it, and I really do appreciate you diving deep, man. It really means a lot. I
can't judge, right? Like, that's my thing. Like, if I'm going to judge, I have to know everything, and that's my outlook in a lot of things in life. When certain people judge people by comments or things that may have happened, I'm like, I need to know everything before I'm going to make my fucking full judgment and understanding, because otherwise then I'm just another asshole with an opinion that doesn't fucking mean anything. But if I put it in work to figure it out, I'm allowed to have my opinion. Otherwise,
sure.
If you just have an opinion based on one or two things, then you're wrong. Like, that's usually my feeling on that. I really like to put in the work because I like to know what I'm talking about. I like to be able to be like, all right, yeah, no, I didn't like this, and here's why. Well, I did all this other homework on it. So
sure. Well, for your listeners, I just want them to know they don't need to do as much homework as you. That's why people like you exist in the world, to do your homework for all of the rest of us. So I invite your listeners, please listen to some Divided Heaven records and judge as mercilessly as you want. Just buy the record, like order a record from me online, or a CD or something. I'll gladly send you a copy or two, and then you can like really judge.
Well, yeah, because you've spent your money on it, so then that's the big thing.
Exactly.
And I say it all the time here, but he just said it well enough for you. But please, if you want artists that you enjoy who create music, it's not a free thing, really. It should everything be free, but it's not really a free thing. It takes money to put out the music that these people create, and if you really support them and really love them, just buy something. Every dollar helps, especially to the next creation. So, and it keeps them going. So please, please, please do it.
Yeah, and we're a mom and pop. I say we, but the mail order has always been me, and I take pride. I always take great pride in that, and it's fun. I love doing. I love when I get a bunch of orders at once and I can kind of make an afternoon out of it. It's a really fun thing. So yeah, no pressure to your audience. No pressure, but I've got diapers to buy. So just buy a couple of records, we'll see what happens. No, but thank you very much, Shane. I really appreciate your kindness and your time. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys know what time it is now. It's time to go out, listen to Divided Heaven, and have a great fucking time.
What are we watching? What are we waiting for? Send the face inside of my home. What are we watching? What are we waiting for? I've seen all I need to know. 15 minutes is enough for conspiracies. Not enough time for not bombs. Modern complex spotted in methamphetamines. The tyranny of a mom.
Thanks again for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's show. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at HiddenTracks99. Also, send all your submissions to myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Tune in next week. You may find your new favorite band, and don't forget to go out and have a great fucking time.